Walk through Split, Croatia, and you'll find children kicking soccer balls against the bedroom walls of a Roman emperor. Their parents hang laundry from the same stone columns Diocletian touched 1700 years ago. Nobody thinks this is strange. Across Europe and the Mediterranean, 15 towns built their daily life inside Roman ruins. People sleep, cook, and run shops inside arches and palaces that were already old when England got its first king. The buildings outlived the empire by 1500 years. Nobody ever left. These are 15 forgotten towns where ordinary people still live inside Roman ruins. Number 1. Pula, Croatia. In a working Croatian port city, you'll find a Roman amphitheatre still standing in full. The Pula Arena was built between 27 BC and 68 AD. It's the 6th largest Roman amphitheatre ever built, and the only one in the world with all 3 classical architectural orders preserved on a single building. 23,000 spectators once filled these stone seats to watch gladiators fight. Today, 57,000 residents live around it. They walk past it to the grocery store. Children cut through the perimeter, heading home from school. Restaurants set dinner tables in the shadow of stones laid before the New Testament was finished. In 1583, the Venetian Senate seriously considered taking the Pula Arena apart and rebuilding it inside Venice. They voted against the plan because moving the stones cost too much. Today, it hosts concerts and the Pula Film Festival every summer, in the same oval where Roman crowds once cheered the dying. Pula kept the arena intact. The next town did something stranger. They turned a Roman temple into a butcher shop and forgot it was a temple for 200 years. Number 2. Evora, Portugal. In southern Portugal, surrounded by olive groves and cork oak forests, sits the medieval city of Evora. About 57,000 people live there. Above them in the main square stands a Roman temple that has stood there since the late 1st century AD. Locals call it the Temple of Diana. The actual Roman name was probably the Temple of the Imperial Cult, dedicated to the worship of Augustus. 14 Corinthian columns rise from a granite base, 6 on each long side, 2 at the back, white Estremoz marble, roughly 9 meters tall. Here's the part most people don't know. Medieval Evora walled the temple up and turned it into a butcher shop. The columns were buried inside the new walls. The Roman Temple of the Emperor served as a meat storage facility for hundreds of years. Until 1836, when the Portuguese government cleared the medieval walls and revealed the Roman columns underneath. The medieval butchers had built around the temple, not torn it down. The columns were too strong to remove, so the Romans kept the meat hooks for them. A temple turned into a butcher shop. The next item is bigger, an entire city still living inside its original Roman walls. Number 3. Aosta, Italy. The Romans called it Augusta Praetoria Salisorum, founded in 25 BC by the Emperor Augustus to control the Italian gateway to the Alps. A perfect rectangle, 724 by 572 meters, walls 7 meters tall, 4 monumental gates, 2 triumphal arches. Then the empire collapsed. The walls didn't. Today, 34,000 Italians live inside the original Roman boundary. The Porta Praetoria, the eastern gate, has 2 side towers 11 meters high and 3 openings. The wide central one was for chariots. The narrow side ones were for pedestrians. 19 centuries later, modern Italians still walk through those same pedestrian openings to reach the medieval Old Town. The Roman theatre, with one wall surviving 22 meters tall, sits in the middle of a residential neighborhood. The Arch of Augustus stands at one end of town, in the middle of a roundabout. Cars circle it every minute. To Italians who've lived in Aosta their whole lives, the arch is just there. The same as a stoplight. It's been there forever, and it'll be there tomorrow. Aosta kept the boundary, the next town kept the bridge, and used it for traffic until the Spanish government finally pulled the cars off in 1991. Number 4. Merida, Spain. The Romans called this city Emerita Augusta, founded in 25 BC by retiring soldiers from the 5th and 10th legions. It became the capital of Lusitania, the Roman province covering most of modern Portugal and western Spain. 60,000 people live there now. The Roman bridge over the Guadiana, the Puente Romano, was built in the late 1st century BC. It originally measured around 755 metres. Today, 60 arches survive on a span of 721 metres. Longer than 7 football fields end to end, the longest surviving Roman bridge in the world. Cars and trucks drove over it every day until 1991, when Spain finally diverted vehicle traffic to a parallel modern bridge. 2,000 years of constant use, ended only by the construction of an alternative. The Roman theatre, built in 16 BC by the general Marcus Agrippa, was buried under earth for over 1,000 years. Spanish archaeologists rediscovered it in the early 1900s. In 1933, the Spanish government put it back to work. Every summer since, the Festival de Teatro Clásico has staged Greek and Roman plays inside the original theatre. The acoustics still work as well as the day they were built. Merida's bridge served until 1991. The next item served as a Christian church for almost 800 years, built inside a Roman gate. Number 5. Trier, Germany. The oldest city in Germany sits on the Moselle River, surrounded by vineyards. The Romans called it Augusta Treverorum. Founded in 16 BC under Augustus, it became one of the 4 imperial capitals of the Roman Empire by the late 3rd century AD. 3 Roman emperors lived and ruled here. The Porta Nigra was built around 170 AD out of massive sandstone blocks, some weighing 6 tons. The Romans didn't use mortar between the major stones. They used iron clamps inside the joints, holding the blocks together by mechanical pressure. 2 stories of arched windows, a fortified gate big enough for a Roman legion to march through in formation. When the empire collapsed, the Porta Nigra didn't. In 1028, a Greek monk named Simeon moved into the gate and lived inside the upper levels for years. After his death and canonization, the gate was converted into the Church of St. Simeon. It served as a working church for almost 800 years. In 1804, Napoleon ordered the medieval church removed and the Roman gate restored. Today, the gate sits in the middle of a pedestrian shopping district. A McDonald's is 2 blocks away. A monk lived inside Roman stone. In the next town, an entire neighbourhood does. They built their houses directly on the curve of a Roman amphitheatre 900 years ago. Number 6. Lucca, Italy. This one is strange. Imagine a Roman amphitheatre, the kind that held gladiator games and public executions. Now imagine that instead of preserving it as a ruin, the medieval town built houses on top of the surviving foundation. They used the original elliptical wall as the load-bearing wall of homes. They filled the empty arena with a powder magazine, a salt store, and a prison, and they kept living there for 900 years. That's the Piazza dell'Anfiteatro in Lucca, Italy. The original Roman amphitheatre was built in the 1st century AD under the Emperor Claudius. 54 arches, seating for 10,000 spectators. After Rome fell and the seats were stripped for building stone, the surviving foundation was too strong to remove. So in the 11th century, the people of Lucca did something nobody else in Europe did. They built houses directly on the foundation, following the curve. In the 1830s, the architect Lorenzo Nottolini was hired to clear the inside of the arena. He demolished the buildings, choking the interior. He left the elliptical ring of medieval houses standing on the original Roman foundation. The base of the amphitheatre is still buried about 9 feet below the modern piazza, but the perfect oval shape has been preserved by the houses built into it. Children play in the same oval where Roman gladiators once died. Lucca built houses on a Roman foundation. The next town is in Syria, and it survived for the strangest reason. Muslims fortified the Roman theatre. The medieval walls accidentally fossilized it. Number 7. Bosra, Syria. In southern Syria, 65 miles south of Damascus, sits one of the most preserved Roman theatres anywhere on earth. The Romans built it in the 2nd century AD. 15,000 spectators. Original stage walls, seating tiers, and marble facing still intact. But here's what makes Bosra different from Merida or Pula. The Romans did not fortify their theatre. The medieval Muslims did. Around 1202, the Ayyubid Sultan al-Adil, the brother of Saladin, ordered the Roman theatre turned into a fortress. His engineers built thick stone walls around the outside, dug a deep dry moat, and added up to 9 large square towers. That conversion accidentally saved the theatre. The Ayyubid walls sealed the Roman seating tiers and stage from the weather and the desert sand. While other Roman theatres across the empire crumbled under 15 centuries of erosion, the theatre of Bosra was protected. Fossilised inside its own medieval shell, the medieval town built around the citadel, houses, markets and mosques clustered up against its walls. Some homes literally have a Roman theatre wall as one side of the kitchen. UNESCO designated Bosra a World Heritage Site in 1980. Before the Syrian civil war, more than 30,000 people lived there. Bosra is one Roman theatre preserved by accident. The next item is an entire imperial palace turned into a working town, with 3,000 people living inside its walls right now. Number 8. Split, Croatia. This is the most extraordinary town on this list. In 295 AD, the Roman Emperor Diocletian decided to build himself a retirement palace on the Adriatic coast. Not a villa, not a country home, a palace built like a fortress. 215 metres by 180 metres, walls up to 25 metres high. The 4 gates were named for the 4 metals: gold, silver, iron and bronze. There was a temple to Jupiter, a mausoleum for the emperor, and an entire imperial residence with marble floors and a peristyle courtyard. Diocletian died inside the palace in 311 AD. Then in the 7th century, the Avars and Slavs invaded the Dalmatian coast. The nearby Roman city of Salona was destroyed. The refugees fled to the coast and found the empty palace of Diocletian sitting in the sun. They moved in. That's the part nobody outside Croatia really understands. The refugees did not preserve the palace. They did not turn it into a museum. They moved into it. They built houses inside the imperial bedrooms. They used Diocletian's own mausoleum, the tomb of the emperor who killed thousands of Christians, as a Christian cathedral, dedicated to one of the very martyrs Diocletian had executed. Today, more than 3,000 people live inside the walls of Diocletian's palace. The current Cathedral of St. Domnius is the same building Diocletian built as his own tomb. The peristyle is still the central public square. The emperor's old throne room is now a souvenir shop. The basement substructures have a fish market in them. Diocletian retired here to escape the world. 16 centuries later, the world simply moved in. Split is the most remarkable town on this list, but the next one is the most invisible. There's a Roman stadium underneath the main shopping street of a Bulgarian city, and most of it has never been excavated. Number 9. Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Plovdiv is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in Europe. The Romans called it Trimontium, the city of 3 hills. Today, It's the second largest city in Bulgaria, about 340,000 residents. Every day, they walk over a Roman stadium without realizing it. The Stadium of Trimontium was built under the Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, about 250 metres long and 50 metres wide, seating for 30,000 spectators on 14 tiers of marble blocks. Then the Roman Empire fell. The medieval city of Philippopolis built itself directly on top of the seats. By the 18th century, you couldn't tell there had ever been a stadium underneath. Today, the main pedestrian street of Plovdiv runs directly over the Roman stadium. Shoppers buy clothes at H&M and Zara. They get coffee at sidewalk cafes. Underneath them, 10 metres down, the marble seats of a Roman athletic stadium still curve through the bedrock. Only the northern end has been excavated. You can stand in a sunken plaza and see 14 rows of original Roman seating. The starting blocks for the runners, the inscription dedicating the building to Hadrian. The rest of the stadium runs another 600 feet under the modern street. The Romans built so deep that 1,500 years of construction couldn't bury what they made. Plovdiv buried a Roman stadium under H&M. The next town has Roman walls so old they were built during the war against Hannibal, and they're still holding up apartments. Number 10. Tarragona, Spain. Before Merida, before any of the major Spanish provincial capitals, there was Tarraco, founded as a Roman military camp in 218 BC during the Second Punic War, the first Roman city in Iberia, capital of Hispania Citerior. The walls they built to protect it are still standing in 2026. Today, Tarragona is a Catalan city of roughly 135,000 people. Cars, traffic lights, shopping malls, beach hotels. Threaded through it, sometimes literally inside modern apartment buildings, are the original Tarraco walls. Built in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC. Cyclopean stones at the base. Some weigh several tons each. Medieval Tarragona didn't tear down the Roman walls. They used them as the foundation for their own walls. The Renaissance city used the medieval walls as foundations. The modern city built houses against the Renaissance walls. The result is a place where you can stand in someone's living room and touch a stone laid by Roman soldiers during the war against Hannibal. UNESCO listed Tarragona's Roman heritage in 2000. For the residents, it's just the wall behind the bakery. Tarragona uses Roman walls as foundations. The next town did the opposite. They never built on top of their Roman theatre. Just left it buried for 1,500 years. Number 11. Volterra, Italy. In the hills of Tuscany, between Florence and the sea, sits the small Italian town of Volterra. About 10,000 people live there. The town is older than Rome itself. The Etruscans founded it in the 8th century BC. The Romans took it over in 260 BC and built a city on top. Then the empire fell. The medieval town built itself on top of the Roman city. The Roman theatre, built in the late 1st century BC, sat buried under earth for over 1,500 years. Local farmers had ploughed up Roman tile and stone for generations, but nobody understood the scale of what was underneath. In 1950, an archaeologist named Enrico Fiumi started excavating the site. What emerged was a near-complete Roman theatre. Capacity around 3,500. Marble facing of the stage, the columns and the seating tiers all preserved. What makes Volterra different is that the medieval town never expanded over the buried theatre. They built right up to the edge of where it was buried, and stopped. The theatre sat just outside the medieval city walls, in a low spot that was easy to leave alone. Today, modern apartment buildings look down on it from the cliff above. Residents have a Roman theatre for a backyard view. Volterra forgot its theatre. The next town forgot it was ever a city. A Swiss farmer found a Roman gold bust in a drainage pipe almost 2,000 years later. Number 12. Avenches, Switzerland. Avenches is a quiet farming village west of Bern. About 4,000 people live there now, but Avenches isn't just any small village. It's a small village built inside the walls of what used to be the capital of Roman Switzerland. The Romans called it Aventicum. Founded in the early 1st century AD. At its peak, over 20,000 inhabitants, an amphitheatre for 16,000 spectators, public baths, a forum, a basilica. The city walls stretched 5.6 kilometres, reaching 7 metres high, reinforced with 73 towers. In 259 AD, Germanic tribes raided the city. Aventicum was sacked, burned and abandoned. By the medieval period, the city was a ghost, but the walls were still there. The cisterns were still there, so a small village grew up inside the ruins. They used the Roman walls as their walls. They drew water from the Roman cisterns. They never bothered to expand beyond the Roman footprint. The amphitheatre hosts opera festivals every summer. The local museum displays the gold bust of Marcus Aurelius, found inside a drainage pipe in 1939. 1.5 kilograms of solid Roman gold, found by accident by a Swiss farmer working his fields. Avenches gave up a gold bust by accident. The next town has a Roman triumphal arch sitting in a public park. Locals walk past it every morning on their way to coffee. Number 13. Susa, Italy. In the Italian Alps near the French border sits a small town called Susa. Population about 6,000. It's built around the road that has connected Italy to France through the Mont Cenis Pass for over 2,000 years. In the middle of this small alpine town, on a low hill above the modern centre, stands the Arch of Augustus. Built in 9 BC, the arch commemorates the alliance between Augustus and the local Cottian king, Marcus Julius Cottius. It stands about 13 metres tall, made of local marble, almost completely intact. The dedicatory inscription is still legible on both sides. The decorative friezes still show Roman soldiers and the local Cottian warriors meeting in ceremony. The arch is not in a museum. It stands in the middle of a public park, surrounded by alpine pines and the rooftops of the modern town. Local residents pass it every day on their walks. School field trips stop there. Surrounding it are remnants of the Roman walls and the Roman aqueduct. Modern houses are built directly against these stones. You can stand on a balcony in Susa, drink your morning espresso, and watch the sunlight pass through the same arch that Roman emperors used to enter Italy on their way back from the wars in Gaul. Susa keeps the arch above ground. The next town keeps a Roman house below it. Original frescoes still on the walls, with people living in apartments directly above. Number 14. Spoleto, Italy. Spoleto is a hill town in Umbria, central Italy. About 38,000 people live there. Long before any festival, before any medieval cathedral, Spoleto was a Roman colony called Spoletium, founded in 241 BC. In the middle of the modern town, on the main street where shops and cafes line the road, stands the Arch of Drusus and Germanicus. Built in 23 AD, the arch commemorates 2 Roman princes who died young, small but elegant, framing a passage that locals use every single day. The same arch that Roman citizens passed through to enter the Forum 2,000 years ago. Modern Italians pass through to get to the gelato shop. Underneath Spoleto, accessible through a small museum, is a Roman house from the 1st century AD. The Domus Romana was discovered by accident in 1885 during construction work for a new municipal building. The original frescoes are still on the walls. The mosaics are still on the floors. The impluvium that collected rainwater. Just above the Roman house, the modern building is still in use. There are apartments above the museum. People live in the same building footprint where Roman aristocrats lived 2,000 years ago. Spoleto stacked one apartment on a Roman house. The next town stacked 20 centuries on a single bridge, until 2020. Number 15. Rimini, Italy. The Romans called it Ariminum, founded in 268 BC, a critical Roman colony on the Adriatic coast, the eastern terminus of the Via Emilia. Today it's a beach resort city of about 150,000 people. Threaded through the modern city, in active daily use, are two of the most important surviving Roman engineering projects in Europe. The first is the Arch of Augustus, built in 27 BC. The southern entrance to Rimini, the official gateway from the Via Flaminia, the main Roman road from Rome itself. About 10 metres tall. The oldest surviving Roman triumphal arch anywhere in the world. Locals walk through it on their way to school, to work, to the market. 2,050 years it has stood. The second is the Bridge of Tiberius. Construction started under Augustus, completed under Tiberius around 21 AD. 5 massive arches of Istrian limestone. For 2,000 years this bridge carried foot traffic, animal traffic and motor vehicles. The bridge stayed in active vehicle service until May 2020, when the city of Rimini finally pedestrianised it. The Romans built bridges that lasted until a city council in 2020 decided to take the cars off them. That's not preservation. That's an infrastructure project that outlived empires. Every century used Roman work as a starting point. The building never stopped. Modern construction tears itself down every 50 years. The Romans laid foundations in 25 BC that are still load-bearing in 2026. Don't look for these buildings in a museum. They're somebody's apartment. If you want more buried history, hit subscribe.